I probably would pee my pants. I would. I would probably pee my pants.
See, and she's brought her lawyer, Elvira Gray, with her. I hope they're not planning to cause any trouble.
Surely not. She wouldn't cause a scene, not in front of all these people. Would she?
I don't know, Elena. If they do, we'll just have to deal with it. We're about ready to begin. Can we go see if we can find her?
Of course.
Unless you'd like to lock one of our visitors in the torture chamber.
What? Oh, right.
Never mind. Forget I said it. After all, without her money, Dirk's expedition to Egypt wouldn't have been possible. I've sent Elena to go get Dirk. Can you go check your laptop?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Johann van der Veer, the curator of the Hamilton Museum. Tonight, we have a lecture from Dirk Carlton. As you no doubt know, Professor Carlton is one of the world's leading Egyptologists and... Oh, you're here. As I was saying, tonight Professor Carlton will tell us about his discovery of the tomb of Menkaure.
Menkaure? Oh, yes, the pharaoh. Strange man. Apparently, for some beauty, the trophy goddess had this life-size statue in his room. She had the body of a snake and the head of a woman. She had the head of a snake, the body of a woman. There we go. She had huge fangs. Ugly woman! Hood all swelled up.
Yes, sir. I'm sure it's all in your notes.
My notes. I've seen these places. Oh. Oh, sorry. Test things. Got it all. I was. It was over there.
That's not the only photos you brought back to the museum. That devoted assistant of yours.
Francis, what do you do? Why, lawyer said.
Miss Carlton, what you're implying is simply ridiculous. Dirk and I are merely just friendly co-workers, that's all. Tell it to the judge in divorce court.
Francis, this is most inappropriate. I'd have to ask you to sit down. I'd hate to have to ask a guard to escort you out.
Very well. We're not finished with you yet.
Can we please just get this going?
Are we going somewhere? Oh, right, the lecture. Yes.
Elena?
Dr. McGeer, Ross Palmer with the Sentinel. Professor Carlton's findings are of worldwide importance. The Sentinel wants to run a cover story on him tomorrow. We were hoping we could take a couple of photos up here. Time, Life, National Geographic, publications like that have asked for photographs of tonight's event. I brought the paper's best photographer, Betty Lang, with me tonight. Would it be alright if we took a few photos up here while the audience is still here?
It won't take but a couple of minutes, Dr. Vanderveer.
Time? National Geographic? The publicity would be invaluable towards the museum. It's highly irregular, but yes, by all means, if Mr. Carlton agrees. Professor? Can we take some pictures?
Pictures? Certainly. Take as many as you like. Just make sure to return them.
Where would you like me to stand?
I prefer to take candid shots. Let me get a few shots of the audience first.
How about a shot with the professor and Dr. Vanderveer? Great, Betty. Just a couple more shots up here, and then we'll get pictures of stuff on the stage and in the exhibition hall's actual performance.
Johann, I must protest. I'm Miranda Westbrook, and I finance Professor Carlton's expedition. Stop that and don't dare mention my name in your newspapers. Ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize for the way my money has been misspent. This is licentious. And in conjunction with a Ghoul's lecture on monsters, murders, and madmen. You ought to be ashamed!
How do you spell licentious?
L-I-C.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Lorenda, but even with donations from wealthy patrons such as yourself, the museum still relies on the support from the community to survive. Last week, we featured an exhibit on fossilized plants from the Paleozoic era. Do you know how many people came to see them? 16, and they were 5-year-olds. A preschool teacher took her kids on a field trip. They thought they were going to see dinosaur bones.
Miss Westbrook, like it or not, the public is fascinated by monsters, murders, and madmen. They've attended the exhibition in droves. People come here for the same reason thousands of tourists go to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in London, and have since 1802. To see the figures of the most famous people who ever lived, of course, but mainly to get a good, safe scare by walking through her Chamber of Horrors. Our exhibit is giving the public what it wants.
I didn't ask for your opinion, Miss Newman. If you throw slop into a trough, pigs will run to it. Oh, dear. I wasn't talking about you.
Let me speak for you, Lorenda. After all, that is what you pay me for. I am Elvira Gray, Mrs. Westbrook's attorney. Hey, that's not my good side.
Do you spell gray with an A or an E?
A, G-R-A-Y. I'm with gray, green, black, and white.
It sounds like the colors of the Mongolian national flag. Really, Elvira?
Gray, green, black, and white is the most prestigious law firm in the entire city.
What is prestigious?
You see, the Egyptians used to worship Nekhbet, the vulture goddess. Rumor has it she was a lawyer.
Nekhbet, a vulture's head on a woman's body. She made the corporate goddess look like Miss America by comparison.
You heard that? What's your name?
Cassidy.
And yours?
Speed.
All right. Well, I'll subpoena you to appear in court as a witness in a slander suit I plan to file against this museum.
Miss Gray, please. Dirk and Elena weren't comparing you to Nekhbet.
Of course not. When it comes to horrible creatures, there really is no comparison.
Blasphemers! Infidels! You call Nekhbet a horrible creature, and you refer to her and eulogy as ugly beings. They're powerful deities and vengeful. Beware, lest they strike you down for your disrespect.
Do you spell blasphemers with one or two?
Good man, you can't believe that these mystical creatures actually exist.
I have seen the results of their anger. Their revenge is swift and terrible. You say it was your money that funded the expedition which has led to the desecration of Menkara's tomb? Then you are as accursed as they, and you too are doomed to die an excruciating death!
Oh, not excruciating. I hate the word excruciating.
You heard that? What's your name? And yours?
Charles.
Well, I'll arrange for you to appear in court as a witness in a slander suit for this guy for making death threats against my client.
It is not I who will rain destruction down upon her head. It will be the gods of Egypt themselves. Beware the curse of Menkara, reigning for 5,000 years.
Beware the curse of Menkara. Woe to them who interfere.
Beware the curse of Menkara. Behold, the warning is clear.
Hear the desert voices like serpents on the wind.
Fear the wrath of Pharaoh as he lives again.
Beware the curse of Menkara. You have defiled his domain.
Beware the curse of Menkara. Those who defile will be slain. Beware the curse of Menkara. Death and destruction will reign. Soon the gods of Egypt will burn your very soul.
Stop before this madness grows out of control.
Beware the curse of Menkara, reigning for 5,000 years. Beware the curse of Menkara. Woe to them who interfere. Soon the gods of Egypt will seal your very fate. Heed the words and turn back before it's too late.
correctly, I'll hold you responsible. Just who are you anyway?
I am Gahiji Amun. I have come to reclaim that which has been taken from my country.
Nothing can be accomplished here, my brother. We will deal with these infidels when the time is right.
Perhaps you are right, Isis, my sister. When the time is right.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's interesting names. Amun, the god of mystery. Gahiji, hunter. And Isis, the goddess of magic. Your teachers must have had a field day. Oh, Mrs. Amun, your daughter Isis, goddess of magic, was caught chewing gum in class.
I don't care who you are. You can't come into our country and threaten our citizens. It's against the law.
Pah! Your laws cannot touch us. We are aides of our country's embassy and are not subject to your government's dictates.
Is that true?
I'm afraid if it really is, Lorenda, we'll have to find another way to handle these foreigners. Come, Lorenda, you look a little pale. Let's sit down.
You said you wanted to reclaim something that belonged to your country, Mr. Raymond. What is that?
Just the artifacts you see here. Most especially the jewel.
The jewel. Oh, right, the jewel.
What jewel would that be?
The eye of Uajit.
Uajit, the one the professor called the Cobra Goddess?
The very same. The eye served as the eye of the goddess in a golden statue found of her in Menkara's tomb. It was removed and taken from the land of the pharaohs.
Look, sir, your State Department gave us the permission to take these artifacts, which you see here. Look about the lecture hall. My guards have sworn to die to protect it.
Mr. Moon, since it was our expedition that found the tomb, the Egyptian government generously allowed us to borrow a few of the items we found inside. In due course, they will be returned to Cairo as good as new. You know what I mean.
Woe be unto you if you fail!
Again with the threats! You can file suit, Miss Newman.
Not threats, madam. Warnings.
A perfect stone. No flaws. Sorry about that. Buttery fingers.
Look, my brother. It is the eye. Magnificent.
Okay, your little song and dance was great, but you guys really need to sit down now. We're already behind schedule and we really need to begin. If you have problems, take it up with us after the lecture. That goes for you too as well. I appreciate your work, but we need to get started.
Fine. I guess we'll hear from the mouth of this man himself how he plans to continue desecrating Menkara's tomb.
Jane, are you ready?
Yes, sir. It just makes me really nervous when people argue.
We'll have no more interruptions, I can promise you that. Professor? We're ready to begin.
Go right ahead.
The lecture. You can start the lecture.
Lecture. All right. Good evening, everyone. I am Dirk Carlton, and I'd like to thank Dr.
Vanderveer.
Vanderveer and his board of expertise for sponsoring my most recent trip to Egypt, where I was fortunate enough to discover the tomb of the powerful pharaoh Menkara. You see, Menkara was a proud, handsome man, as you can tell by the image engraved on his sarcophagus. When we deciphered the ancient hieroglyphics, the Egyptians said that he was a tyrant who had anyone who disagreed with him thrown in the Nile River with the crocodiles. Blasphemy! Gesundheit. Anyway, Elena took some breathtaking photos of these valuable treasures that were in his tomb. You see, the Egyptians believed that you could take your items with you to the afterlife. Wrong! We found all sorts of treasures that were engraved in his tomb, including the eye of Uajit, the most valuable treasure there is. Next slide, Jean.
Jane. Jane Trace, Professor Carlton.
My first major discovery was this image engraved, this image of Isis engraved on the entrance of Mankar's tomb.
My namesake.
You see, when we deciphered the ancient hieroglyphics, there were found to be magic spells that could grant the user eternal life. Next slide, June.
Jane.
Ah, yes, Selket. You see, Selket wears this image of a scorpion on her head because the ancient Egyptians believed she had the power to cure anything. Legend has it that there was an evil heir next in line for the pharaoh of Menotep. He was killed by dropping a live scorpion in his ear, but that's a story for another time. Next slide, Joan.
Professor Carlson, I think I pressed the wrong button. If you would just give me a second to, I'm sorry, Professor. Just give me a moment. No, that's okay. If I can just find where, here it is.
The lights! Somebody turn on the lights!
Oh my God! What happened?
This is tragic. It looks as if someone has stabbed Professor Carlton in the ear with a pencil. I think he's dead.
Oh my God! Dirk! Murder in the house of horrors. What would people say? Murder in the house of horrors. A horrible display. Someone somewhere has hatched this evil plot. What we've got is a terrifying plot. Somehow, someway, this killer must be caught. To be sure, yes, this killer must be caught. It's murder, apparently it's murder. A cold-blooded killer's running free. It's murder, undoubtedly it's murder. Murder in the first degree. Murder in the house of horrors. What would people say? Murder in the house of horrors, a horrible display. Murder in the house that somewhere has hatched this beastly plot. What we've got is a terrifying plot. Somehow, someway, this killer must be caught. To be sure, yes, this killer must be caught. It's murder, somewhere has hatched this beastly plot. Oh, what dread, the professor's lying dead. It's murder, somewhere it's murder. This killer must be caught. To be sure, yes, this killer must be caught. This killer must be caught.
Betty, what a story! It's gonna be the story right here. Come on.
No, wait, this will be terrible for the museum.
Oh my God!
Should somebody see if he's really, not alive?
I've seen plenty of stiffs in my line of work, Miss Trice. Take my word for it. He's a goner.
No! Dirk!
So you were his friends, huh? Someone ought to call the police.
I will. I'm well acquainted with Lieutenant Morrow, the head of the homicide division.
Thank you, Elvira, but you'll have to make the call in my office. The reception out here is terrible.
Dr. Van der Veer, what about the jewel the professor was holding? You told me to keep an eye on it and...
Oh, right, I forgot about that. Back away from the body.
Johann, I don't feel well at all. I'm gonna go lay down on the sofa in your office, if that's all right.
I suppose.
Miss Newman, you really should stay here.
I beg your pardon?
I've covered the police beat before. Usually, the cops want the suspects to stay on the crime scene. Well, sure, the professor's dead and someone in this room is a killer.
And a thief. The jewel is nowhere near the body.
The reporter is right. No one can leave.
You let Elvira Gray go!
I wasn't thinking anyway. How could she have committed the crime? She's a lawyer. Tony, station people at the exits.
Yes, sir.
That jewel could be anywhere. It's a valuable piece of property.
Please, would you look under the chairs and the chairs around you?
If you find the jewel or anything that's not supposed to be here, please report it immediately.
He's got a gun!
The weapon is mine. Must have fallen from my pocket during the confusion.
Under the chair.
I'll take charge of that.
There's no need. The professor was stabbed, not shot. Besides, I have a license to carry the weapon.
Can I see it?
I left it in my jacket at the hotel.
In that case, I'll hold on to it until the police get here. You can tell them why you think you need to carry a gun to a lecture.
It's for protection. I carry the weapon wherever I go. I have many enemies.
I don't doubt it in the least.
I spoke with Lieutenant Morrow. He's nearby and he should be here at any minute. He said he'll arrange for the medical examiner to remove the body.
The body? No! No! I'll thank you to take your hands off Dirk. He is my husband. He is dead. He may be cold, may be drowned, a cadaver on a slab, but he's absolutely mine. He may be pale, growing stale, though it's murder to inhale without fail. The man is mine. I remember all those good years, living in marital bliss. You would steal him from my life, but I'm his wife. Keep your dirty, rotten hands off my corpse.
Ladies, please, control yourselves.
He may be gross, comatose, though it's hard to hold him close. Adios, the man is mine. He may be rank, smelling dank, there'll be talk of how he stank, but I'll thank you, yes, he's mine. I remember all those good times, traveling all over the world, and though it's true you were his wife, you had no life. Keep your dirty, rotten hands off my corpse. He may be picking roots, stricken, quite sick and not flicking, dirt's not kicking. Keep your dirty, rotten hands off my corpse.
I'll simply clear, lying here with a pencil in his ear. Don't interfere. The man is mine.
That deadly grin, pallid skin, rigor mortis has set in, toe to chin. The man is mine. I remember him so dearly, the softness of his smile. I'll always keep him in my heart, till death do part. Keep your dirty, rotten hands. Though he's looking awfully black, keep your dirty, rotten hands off my corpse. What do you care? You never loved him.
How can you love someone who's never around? Dirk was always running off to some godforsaken corner of the world. You should know you were always right there beside him.
You knew Dirk was an archaeologist when you married him. He made a good living for you, and you never minded spending his money. Dirk told me about how you drained his bank account with all your frivolous shopping excursions.
That's none of your business.
Elena, Francis, please, this is most inappropriate.
Actually, you're better off with Dirk dead, aren't you?
What do you mean?
If the divorce had gone through, your shopping sprees left little to be divided between you. I know Dirk had a very large life insurance policy with you named as beneficiary. He was planning to change that, but he was killed before he could meet with his lawyer. As it stands, you'll still collect the policy.
Are you calling me a fortune hunter?
Oh, not just a fortune hunter, Francis. I'm calling you a murderer.
Why you?
Oh, boy, this is going. I might get a whole book out of this.
I'm getting you plenty of illustrations for it.
Francis, if you wish to bring a slander suit,
Oh, leave me alone.
Oh, it's in the Morrow's post.
Good. Things are about to get out of hand here.
You're almost standing on the corpse and you think that they're about to get out of hand?
Lady, kindly take your seat.
Come on, Betty.
Tony, I'm gonna go meet Lieutenant Morrow at the door. Make sure no one tries to leave.
Yes, sir.
Compose yourself, Elena.
Oi, where do you think you're going?
A valuable property of the Egyptian government has vanished. We must report this to our embassy at once.
You can make a phone call after the police are finished with you. For now, you are staying put.
On whose authority do you plan to keep us here?
Smith and Wesson's.
Tony, is there anything I can do to help? I need to keep busy so I don't think about...
Hey, what, Jane? Why don't you have a seat up here with us?
We never should have disturbed your rest, Aunt Clara. Mr. Moon is right after all. Your gods have begun their revenge.
It wasn't an Egyptian god who thought Professor Carlton was doing. It was someone in this room.
How can you be so sure of that, Tony? Someone could have come in through the door out there, killed Dirk, and left before the projector came back on.
I suppose it's possible, but the guys who stayed in the exhibit hall to watch the displays would have seen anyone moving about out there.
Just how trustworthy are you, guards, huh? One of them might have been willing to kill for a jewel that's worth a fortune.
Oh, dang.
Just saying.
There's the body, Lieutenant Morrow. Our head guard, Tony, here, checked to make sure he was dead. Tony also searched the body for this rare jewel, the Eye of Yuji. It's nowhere to be found.
I see. Tony,
Lieutenant Morrow.
this is my assistant, Officer Val Holloway.
Greetings.
Hi.
You said that he brought the pencil with him. It was freshly sharpened and about 8 inches long?
That's right, Lieutenant.
Nasty bit of business. Never run across a pencil used as a murder weapon before. Who else was on stage with him when the lights were out?
Just Elena Newman, his assistant, myself, and Jane Trice. She was working the projector.
How long were the lights out for?
Hard to say, but definitely more than several seconds.
Well, I suspect when we find the missing gem, we'll have our killer. The first step would be to search anybody who could have killed him. I'll start with you two, since you were the closest ones to him. Do you have any objections, Dr. Vanderveer?
To being searched? No, but I can hardly believe that I'm a suspect.
At this point, everybody in the room except Officer Holloway and myself is a suspect. I'll get to all of you folks later, but for now, first things first. How about you, Miss Newman? Any objections to being searched?
None. I have nothing to hide.
Is there some sort of place?
There are changing rooms backstage. The women's is over there, and the men's is over there.
Great. Tony, if you'll take Dr. Vanderveer. Val, Miss Newman. Now, Dr. Vanderveer filled me in on the basics. However, I still need to know which of you knew Professor Carlton personally. It may seem that robbery was the main motive behind his death. However, it could just be an elaborate smokescreen to hide an even more sinister reason to kill him.
I can help you there, Lieutenant.
Russ, I assume you're here to cover the lecture for the Sentinel?
Right?
Betty? I've run across Betty and Russ on a number of cases. They're a sharp news team. If you have anything that can help us on this Russ case, let's hear it.
Oh boy, do I. The professor was about to show us what he'd found, buried in an ancient room. Treasures long forgotten on Egyptian ground, enough to fill a pharaoh's tomb.
Mrs. Westbrook, who underwrote the faithful trip, is really not the least amused. They built a house of horrors, yes, it made her flip. She said her money's been misused.
And that's what happened, that's what really happened, that's what happened tonight. An attorney named Elvira Gray, spelled with an A, says she's gonna settle the score. She promises she's gonna sue without delay, half a dozen folks or more.
Then there's Frances Carlton, the weeping widow, who plans to file for divorce. The professor had a fling with the bright young kiddo. Yes, that's Elena Newman, of course.
And that's what happened, that's what really happened, that's what happened tonight.
Miss Newman was an aide to dead Dirk Carlton. She's the only one that knows.
They almost had a fight over dead Dirk Carlton. Now Elena's with the cops taking off her clothes.
Gahiji and ISIS to Egyptian folks warned about Menkara's curse.
And then Professor Dirk Carlton up and croaks. Things just couldn't get much worse. And then there's Tony, the jewels protector, and Jane, who is running the slide projector. And there's the body.
Those two are just wasting their time working for a newspaper. They can get jobs at Cliff Notes. It's not size 6. 200-page novels down to just 30.
Thank you, Russ. Patty, that was a very impressive piece of reporting.
Glad to help, Lieutenant.
All right. Now, it seems there are a number of you who may have had a reason to kill Professor Carlton. Dr. Vanderveer said that the blackout lasted for several seconds, long enough for any of you in the front row to get on stage, stab him, steal the jewel, and get back to your seats before the lights came back on. The question is, did any of you leave your seats during the confusion? We'll start with you, Miss Moon. Can you account for your movements when the lights were out?
I do not remember. As you said, there was confusion. I am not sure.
Perhaps this lady sitting next to you could be of more assistance.
Yes, she did get out of her seat.
All right. She got up. All right. And you, can you account for Mr. Moon's movements?
No.
Could you, ma'am?
Same thing.
I saw nothing.
How about you, ma'am?
He moved.
He moved? He moved. All right, Mrs. Carlton, can you account for your movements?
Any statement I have to make will be given through my attorney.
I'm available if you need representation. Call me.
How about you, ma'am? Can you account for Mrs. Carlton's movements?
Oh, she moved.
Oh, she moved. It's possible you might just need a lawyer at that, Mrs. Carlton. Miss Gray, can you account for your client's actions during the time in question?
No, Lieutenant. I stood up when the lights went out. It was instinctive. If Professor Carlton had fallen off the stage ramp and hurt himself, I was prepared to arrest him and present him my card in case he wanted to sue the museum.
She outed herself. How about you, sir? Can you account for Mrs. Westbrook's movements?
Definitely got up.
She definitely got up. All right. Well, it seems there are a number of you who had a motive as well as opportunity to murder the victim. We'll begin our investigation with you. For the time being, I'll consider you all to be witnesses. However, I'm not totally outruling the possibility that anybody in the front row could have gotten onto the stage, killed the professor, and stolen the jewel. Thank you, Tony.
I searched Miss Niven. She's clean. You mean the police actually say that? She's clean. Oh, I hate that phrase. It sounds as if you're surprised to find that I took a bath.
It's nothing personal, Miss Niven.
You think not? You strip down your underwear in front of a total stranger and tell me it's not personal.
Seriously, ma'am, we're just doing our job here, and we're not done yet. Miss Moon, Mrs. Westbrook, Mr. Westbrook, and Mrs. Carlton, if you would please go with Officer Holloway. And Miss Gray, since you admitted to standing up, you may as well join her. Please bring your purses.
I can't imagine why you'd include me in a search, Lieutenant.
Many lawyers are willing to go to unimaginable extremes for their clients, Miss Gray.
Even murder?
It's been known to happen. Mr. Moon, if you'll please head off with Tony.
I do this as a gesture of goodwill. You have no right to search me or my sister.
That's mighty sporting of you. Tony?
Lieutenant Morrow, we won't be needing this lectern now if you'd like me to remove it.
Yes, please, take it away.
So relieved I'm not the suspects. I don't think I could bring myself to dress in front of anyone.
Well, from what I've been told, it's obvious you never left the computer.
No, I didn't.
That clears your suspicion of murder. However, it doesn't necessarily let you off the hook completely.
What do you mean?
At the time of his death, you were controlling the only light source in the room. It remains to be seen whether its going out was an accident, as you claim, or whether you deliberately turned it off.
But that would make me...
And that would make you an accomplice, or rather, an accessory before the fact.
But I'm innocent! I could never...
I hate it when suspects do that. Pictures may be a bit tacky at this point.
I'd have to agree with that. Lieutenant, I was wondering... Jane! Jane, what happened?
Miss Trice has passed out. I'm sure if we leave her here, she'll come to in a minute.
Jane has always been a very high-strung individual. It doesn't take much to upset her. Jane. Jane, wake up.
This floor is getting a little cluttered with, bodies. I can't imagine what's keeping the medical examiner.
We keep a stretcher in the building in case of emergencies. A couple of my guards could take Professor Carlton's body to my office until the medical examiner arrives.
That would be a good idea, except usually our crime lab photographer likes to take a picture of the body, before we move it.
I got several pictures of Professor Carlton after the lights came back on, Lieutenant Morrow.
Great, Betty. Well, in that case, let's dispense with the outlining of the body. It won't hurt to move the remains since the cause of death is, well, obvious.
Dylan, Wayne, could you please take Professor Carlton's body to my office until the medical examiner arrives?
Wait, you're actually taking Dirk away?
So that we stick him in the mummy case.
No!
Tell me about it.
What?
Here, you fainted. Let me help you up.
Thank you.
Good grief, she's still at it. This is the third time you've hugged him tonight, which is more than I have in 3 years. Look, I'm not gonna tell you again. Keep your dirty, rotten hands off my corpse.
See, Lieutenant Morrow? See how cruel and heartless she is? No wonder the poor man was starved for affection.
You think he loved you? The only woman Dirk could ever love would have to be at least 2,000 years old and dressed in Band-Aids.
Dirk did love me, and I loved him.
Well, that's your problem.
Are you ready, Lieutenant Morrow?
Yes, please, take him away.
I didn't find anything at the time. Oh, except for Miss Liverman's gun, which I took charge of earlier.
I'll take that off your hands.
I would like a receipt for my gun, Lieutenant Morrow.
If I decide to keep it, you'll get one.
Should I go and see the medical examiner?
Yes, please.
No luck, boss. The biggest rock I ran across was Mrs. Westbrook's ring. One thing sure, she likes flashy jewels.
That was truly an unpleasant experience. I donated money to a charitable cause. What do I get in return?
If I catch pneumonia, I'm going to sue the police department.
What do you intend to do now, Lieutenant Morrow? Haul us all off in the police scow?
Not quite yet. I still intend to question you extensively regarding your relationships to the deceased. It's not often that I get so many witnesses to the events of a murder. Their insights could be incredibly useful to this investigation.
Lieutenant Morrow, I was wondering, you've already discovered that all the people here had motives to kill Professor Carlton, but what motive could have I had to kill him? His discoveries have earned wonderful publicity towards the museum.
I understand that. I also understand that his death here tonight will bring international attention to you.
Especially since he was speaking as part of the Monsters, Murders, and Madmen lecture series. The area will make the story even more sensational.
Exactly. And I can't imagine that the press will make the most out of the exhibits while they're here as well. I can already see the headlines now in a dozen different foreign languages across the world. Murder in the House of Horrors.
Now do you see why I'm so upset with the way you spent my money?
Dr. Vanderveer, I know some chairs in the back. Can we bring a few up here?
Sure.
But what about me? I admitted I was in love with Dirk. Why would I kill him?
Death is the great end to many romantic relationships, Miss Newman. Often the police never found out what went wrong. But if that's the case in your situation, I'll find out why you killed him. Come on, chairs. All right, like I said, it's not often that I get so many witnesses to the events of a murder. You got to witness the events that took place before and right after I arrived. Quite frankly, you would come up with some questions to ask that I would never think of. So, for the next 10 or so minutes, I'm going to ask for your help. Is that all the chairs?
Yes, sir.
All right. Val, you'll be seated?
Sure, boss.
In fact, will you all be seated, please? All right. And for the next 10 or so minutes, I'm going to ask for your help. If you have a question, please raise your hand. When I point to you, please stand up and address your question to whomever you wish. It's safe to assume that whoever it was isn't going to say anything that will admit their guilt. So expect them to be lying. Dr. Vanderveer, who have the lights turned on, please?
Connor!
And Val, could you keep an eye on the time, please?
Yes, Val, please. All right. Now, who wants to do my job for me? Hands?
In the back, Lieutenant.
Back. You, sir? Sir. Yes.
I never promised you dinosaur bones.
Maybe you should give him dinosaur bones.
Dinosaur bones have nothing to do with this.
Honestly.
All right. Anybody else? You.
Mrs. Carlton, what was the cause of your divorce?
The cause of my divorce was that over time, he stopped buying me things and buying me gifts, and he was never really around, so I had to pretty much fend for myself. So I decided that I was going to choose to take care of myself instead, considering he never took care of me in the first place.
All right. Anybody else? You, sir, on the railing.
Well, because it was disrespectful to take the things in the first place. I would rather be there and there be no lecture than us having to come here and dispute over the morals of it.
You saw how he dropped it earlier. Disgusting.
All right. Anybody else? I may have to start calling on people. I'm sure you don't want that.
Is this a classroom, Lieutenant?
If it has to be. Do I have to count down to 0?
He will.
Hey, you in the back.
Lawyer, how's your business going?
It's excellent, I'm rich.
Then how come you're still trying to drum up so much?
You can never have enough. Why are you suspiciously in the back?
The questions are only supposed to go one way, Miss Gray. All right, anyone else? Ready, please.
For the chair.
This question is for Mrs. Westbrook. Why are you funding the museum? What is it in it for you?
Because I've been going to this museum ever since I was probably about 5, and I've been seeing it go downhill ever since, and I don't want that anymore, honestly. I feel bad for Johan, honestly.
All right. Anybody else? You, sir.
Oh, God.
Sorry, didn't mean to frighten you.
Okay. It's for my 2 Egyptian friends. It is rather odd for the Egyptian government to send people to a museum of all places. Are you really here in the name of the Egyptian government? Or are you here in the name of the pharaoh that you're so keen to protect the name of?
Who said it could not be both? Besides, this is a very odd case.
Indeed.
Right, is that all, sir?
How are you tonight?
I am doing okay.
The murder must put it down on things.
All right, thank you for asking that. Flattered.
Are you even Egyptian?
Like I said, the questions are going one way. Okay, anybody else? You, sir.
How long has the assistant blue worked for Professor?
I first started working with Professor Carlton when I was about 20. I went to one of his lectures and I just seemed like the best person to possibly work with. So I marched right up to him and asked, may I please be your assistant? I would do anything in order to have that position. And so he generously allowed me to work with him. I worked with him for a couple of years, and then he offered to bring me along to Egypt so we could discover Tomb of Menkaure. Stayed there for about 8 months, and came back here for the lecture.
Imagine what life would be like if it was that easy to get any job.
He's got a point. All right, who else? Here, sir.
You stabbed him in the ear after talking about the Egyptian goddess that put scorpions in the ear. Does anyone think it could be the curse?
What exactly are you saying, sir?
He was stabbed in the ear after the Egyptian goddess was talked about that like put scorpions in people's ears. Could it be the curse? Does anyone believe in curses?
I mean, I'm not a superstitious man myself, but I mean...
Well, the curse of Menkara might have had a influence here. It is no use to us. Well, the gods work in their own mysterious ways.
It may have very well been inspiration for a possible murder. Who knows?
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, one in the back. Lieutenant.
You on the railing again? Yes. Whenever this case is over. Next.
How are we doing on time, Val?
Just a few more minutes.
All right. Yes, you.
Johan, how bad is the museum doing?
It's been pretty bad recently. Last month I mentioned an exhibit on fossilized plants. It didn't have very many people go to it.
Didn't you say there are only about 16 5-year-olds?
Yeah, and their teacher.
Seems like one of them is sitting in the back of this room.
Okay. Yes, you.
Mrs. Westbrook, you said that you wish that this museum does not close down, but if that is the case, why do you care how they spend their money to try and get more people here?
Because, have you seen the House of Horrors?
I have. I find it quite nice.
That would honestly probably give 5-year-olds nightmares for life.
Well, this place is not meant for 5-year-olds.
Honestly, I would like to see kind of like maybe some kind of scary and maybe some kind of kid-friendly mixed together, but not like too scary that it would give 5-year-olds nightmares, honestly.
Or children in general.
We have time for
Yeah,
one more
children
question?
in general.
Yes, sir.
All right, one more question. Yes, you.
How many lies do you tell daily?
Lies. Preferably, I would like to tell none.
We have another one.
Lying may be a required thing every now and then. It would be preferable if we had to tell none of them.
At least we're not telling our children that the tooth fairy exists.
All right. Are we out of time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you to all your interrogators. Your questions were very insightful.
Now we know what it feels like to be in a real House of Horrors and stretched on the rack.
Oh, I'm not done with you yet. I still intend to interrogate you all myself.
Lieutenant Morrow, what would the IFUG do to anybody? I mean, if you try to sell an artifact as distinctive as that one is, then you'd have to call jewelers and notify the police if...
You are a naive young woman, Miss Trice. The thief would not try to sell the gem to a jeweler. There are a great many multi-millionaires throughout the world today. Some of them acquire rare treasures to house in their private collections. Once you have attained more wealth than you could use in a lifetime, what do you strive for then? You strive for the unattainable, or at least many of these powerful figures do.
My brother speaks the truth. These men and women would not ask how the seller of the Eye of Eulogy came into possession of the gem. They would simply pay what they deem it worth to have into their possession.
But they wouldn't dare show it to anybody.
They do not covet such treasures to display them. They desire to own them. The owning is everything.
Lieutenant Morrow, even if the moons are right, how could they ever approach such a potential buyer?
Thank you, Miss Trice. Dr. Vanderveer here is the curator of the museum. He meets with many wealthy patrons, such as Mrs. Westbrook, during fundraisers and similar activities. Mrs. Westbrook already travels in the same social circles as the millionaires that the Moons are referring to. She may even be one herself. Perhaps, since she knows that the Eye of Yuji cannot be sold publicly, she discovered another way to obtain it. Miss Gray here is already familiar with the lifestyles of the rich and famous. Miss Newman here goes on many archaeological expeditions and meets with many influential men and women worldwide, one of whom may have approached her in an attempt to obtain the unattainable. A similar offer could have been made to Mrs. Carleton, whose husbands ran the expeditions. Similarly can be said of the Moons through their embassy connections. One of this select group may have found himself or herself an opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, or for one stone, pardon the pun. Namely, the chance to kill a person they wish to see dead and steal a priceless artifact at the same time. You wonder why I've singled you 7 out as suspects? Who else could have had a double motive for murder?
The medical examiner arrived a little while ago to St. Mile. He and his assistants have taken Professor Carlton's body to the morgue.
Great. I assume his office is vacant then?
Yes, sir.
All right. Dr. Vanderveer, with your permission, I'd like to use your office for interrogations.
Certainly.
All right. If you all please rise and follow me then.
Connor, could you get the lights? Thank you.
Oh no. Professor Carlton.
Was it something I said?
You know, it's the fact that you said anything at all, actually. Typically, a dead man doesn't carry on a conversation.
Dead man? You mean Dirk?
Just who are you?
I am Kurt Carleton, Dirk's twin. Like my brother, I study in ancient architecture. While Dirk was more Egyptian, I prefer myself in Chinese antiques. Or should I say was? You say Dirk is dead?
I'm sorry to say that's true. Lieutenant Marr with the Homicide Division. Sorry to say, but your brother was murdered here on this very stage tonight. I was just about to go question the suspects in the museum curator's private office. You'd be welcome to join us if you'd like.
Murder? How? Why? By whom?
That's what I intend to find out with this investigation.
Oh, just try and stop me. I can't believe somebody murdered my brother. And I am not going to rest until I find out who killed Dirk. No denying, one of you is guilty. One of you is surely justifying a vile piece of handiwork.
Poor Dirk, poor Dirk.
What's the reason? What's the motivation? Correlation? Who could be the culprit? We will find through this investigation who killed Dirk. Let's try the direct approach. Was it you?
Not I! Or maybe you!
No, never!
Or was it you?
That's absolutely absurd!
Was it you?
No!
Or maybe you!
No!
I know. Surely it had to be you.
No, this is the punchiest thing I've ever
You
heard.
look suspicious.
Me?
Yes, you.
Or maybe you.
You're joking! It wasn't us!
Was it you?
No. Or maybe you.
What about the guards?
What?
Stop this evil masquerade, this cat and mouse. Somewhere there's a killer in this house.
It's a fact that one of us is lying. No denying, one of us is guilty. It is surely justifying a vile piece of handiwork. Poor Dirk, poor Dirk. It's a fact that one of us is hiding, simply biding time till they can vanish. Always thought that I was law-abiding. Who killed Dirk?
Was it you? Or maybe you? Maybe you? Or maybe you? Maybe you? Or maybe you? I know. Surely it had to be you.
Where were you when the lights were out?
This is simply outrageous.
Maybe.
I know. You all planned it. You all killed him.
What?
One of you is mocking, laughing somewhere near, while poor Dirk's dead with a pencil in his ear.
What's the reason? What's the motivation? Correlation? Who could be the culprits?
We will find through this investigation who killed Dirk.
Poor Dirk! Poor Dirk! Who killed Dirk?
Poor Dirk! Poor Dirk!
Who killed Dirk?
One moment, please. I'm sorry, but I can't release you all as of yet. I have further need of your assistance. While I'm off involved with this group, you'll be free to stand up, to leave the auditorium and stretch your legs. You drink the water. Whatever. During this time, however, I'm going to ask the museum guards to circulate among you and jot down any ideas that you may have that can help us with this investigation.
Could I help interview the suspects as well as the photos? It can be a huge help to my stories.
Yes, Russ. Please make sure you pass all of what you find on to me. And that goes for the guards as well.
Hey, Tony, could you watch the stage?
Yes, sir.
All right. With all of that said, I expect to see you all here in 10 or 15 minutes.
It's a fact that one of us is lying. No denying one of us is guilty. It's a fact that one of us is hiding. Who killed Dirk? Poor Dirk! Poor Dirk! Who killed Dirk? Poor Dirk! Poor Dirk! Who killed Dirk?
Follow me!
Tony.
Regrettably, it's true, this place is next.
Is this our final resting place?
Someone's in the room, hiding, hiding, waiting for a chance to strike again.
Someone's in the room, shining, shining, killer on the loose. Catch me if you can. There is still a killer among us. Quietly the villain waits to pounce.
Let's have no more body counts.
Must get out of here. There is still a killer among us, salivating at the very sight. Grisly, morbid appetite, prowling, scowling somewhere near. Someone's in the room, sneering, sneering, laughing as they tremble, shake with dread.
Someone's in the room, jeering, jeering,
Pencil in the ear, everybody's dead. There is still a killer among us. A never-ending nightmare has begun. We could perish one by one and never see a face. There is still a killer among us. Murder in his place is really hexed. Should we worry who'll be next? Is this our final resting place?
Lieutenant Morrow is winding up his interrogation. He wanted me to ask you if you could round up all your guards' interview sheets.
Sure. I'm sorry about your brother. I liked him.
Thanks, dear old Dirk. At least the discovery of McCar's tomb will live as a lasting tribute to my brother's work.
Professor Carlton? I'm Betty Lang. I'm a photographer with the Sentinel.
I know you. You were with that young man who was asking Lieutenant Morrow about his guards' interviews, about the interviews.
Yes, Russ Palmer. May I speak to you a moment before the others come back?
Sure. What do you want to know, Swain?
Betty, please.
Only you can call me through.
It's a deal. The thing is, Kirk, so far my job with the Sentinel has been to take pictures that they can run with Russ's stories. That was fine in the beginning. Russ is a terrific writer, but even though his spelling isn't too hot. But I'm ready to move on to bigger things. I was hoping that you'd let me ask you a few questions about your relationship with your brother, and the paper might run a sidebar, that's a related story, about your relationship with him that they can run with Russ's story.
Sure. What do you want to know?
You said you and Professor Carlton, the other Professor Carlton, hadn't seen each other in several years. What happened? Did you have a falling out?
No, it was nothing like that. You see, Dirk and I were very close as kids. Liked the same toys, had the same hobbies, even grew up to pick the same careers. It was kind of then after we finished college that we sort of drifted apart. As much as we needed each other, we needed our own space, and I'm sure being identical twins contributed to that. Our expeditions often took us to opposite parts of the globe.
No wonder you really saw each other then.
Yeah, Dirk wrote to me about his wedding, but I was snowbound into bed.
Well, as it turned out, the marriage was almost over.
So I figured. Frances turned out to be a less than loving wife.
Truly, how did you happen to come here tonight?
Dirk wrote to me about his discovery of Menkar's tomb and how it was going to be his first public lecture. I caught the flight to America as soon as I could. You know, I thought I'd maybe surprise him. If I'd gotten here just a tad bit earlier, I could have seen him alive, maybe even prevented.
I'm sorry.
Thanks. Anything else?
Just one more question. I was wondering, are you married?
No. See, it's hard to settle down when you're always on the go.
That's understandable.
What about you? I don't see a ring on you.
Oh. Single, free as a bird, have camera, will travel.
I see. More chance to know, one more chance to see, one more chance to grow. Is it meant to be? One more chance to feel. Time has come to heal. One more chance to love. Can I make it real? And when I find her, she comfort me through endless days and lonely nights. I can feel her there. She's that someone I've been searching for.
One more chance to take, one more star to reach, one more wish to make. My love I beseech, one more chance to say, I'll be yours this day. One more chance to sigh, silently I pray, and
touch my very soul. I know her anywhere.
Calling to be there.
And when I find her, she'll comfort me. Through endless days and lonely nights, I can feel her there. She's that someone I've been searching for. My wandering star.
You like to travel?
I love to travel.
Ever been to China?
Miss Trice, may I speak with you for a moment?
I'm sorry, but I'll get to all you folks in a minute. I'm still sorting through all your comment sheets. Thank you, Russ. These are very helpful. You did a good job interviewing the witnesses.
And I?
Yes, you too, Betty.
I'm glad to help, Lieutenant Morrow. Oh, Professor Carlson, I'd like to get an interview with you.
Thanks for asking, but...
I already interviewed Professor Carlton, Russ. I can write up a sidebar to your story.
You? I'm the writer of the story. You take the pictures.
I know, I just thought that Edgar, he's our editor, would let me try my hand at writing a story. Don't be mad, Russ. You know I'm trying to break into writing, too.
That requires training. You need skills to be a writer. What qualifications do you have?
I can spell. I'm sorry about that. I better go apologize to him.
Like I was saying, Johann, you can count on me to continue the excavation of Ankara's tomb. It'll be difficult, the memories, but it'll be a lasting memorial to what Dirk and I shared.
Thank you, Elena. I'm sure Dirk would have appreciated that.
It's the least I can do.
But as luck would have it, Professor Carlton's brother Kirk has already decided that after he's done with his job at Kunlun, he'll take over the excavation of Ankara.
But I thought his specialty was Chinese artifacts. The Tang Dynasty in particular. I heard him say it.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, but I can't help but overhear it. You see, Dirk wrote to me about his discovery of Ankara's tomb, and he listed all that he accomplished. He wrote, like, a guide to, like, help figure out how to finish the project, and he listed me as a helper, if that's okay.
I see.
I'm sure you'll agree, Elena, that we're lucky to have someone with Professor Carlton's experience at the expedition.
Of course.
Well, I've got to go to Jane to fill out the paperwork for him to take over.
I'm sorry if you wanted to finish the project. See, you could help me in everything.
Don't worry about it. And call me Elena, please, if we're going to be working together. I'm glad you allowed me to continue working with the excavation. I need the work. I do it for Dirk's memory, of course, don't get me wrong, but the field of archaeology, still a man's world.
What do you mean by that?
Think about it, Professor Carlton. Have you ever heard of an archaeological expedition headed by a woman?
I guess not.
Exactly. I have the same background, the same education, and the same abilities as a dozen male Egyptologists I could name. But the grants that finance major expeditions invariably go to them. Isn't it ironic how Cleopatra once ruled the entire Egyptian empire, and yet no one will trust a woman to search for her tomb?
I guess not.
Sorry, I'll climb down off my soapbox now. That's a topic I can get a little carried away on.
That's understandable.
I promise you this. Someday, I'm going to break the tradition. I'm going to head my own archaeological expedition. And when I do, maybe I can persuade you to be my assistant.
Oh, Dirk.
Kirk! Professor Carlton's name is Kirk.
Yes, of course. Kirk. I was just remembering Dirk.
I couldn't help but overhear that you plan to take over the excavation of Menkara's tomb. That's major news. Let me get a picture of you over there. You don't mind if I steal Kirk away from you, do you? Oh, you can borrow him.
It was an honor to work with Professor Carlton.
Dr. Knight, I really would like to have a word with you.
Yes, Miss Westbrook?
Elvira has informed me that after tonight's horrendous events, that I'm able to bring a suit against you for damaging my good name and reputation.
Good grief, Lorenda. Elvira would slap a suit on a total stranger faster than a clothing salesman on commission.
That's slander!
Is it slanderous to tell a skunk that it stinks? I think not. As I understand the law, the comment might be rude, but isn't slanderous. For to be slanderous, it has to be untrue. Does it not? Excuse me, but everyone who Miss Gray mentioned lawsuits to, could you please raise your hand? Counselor, I rest my case.
Whatever. Miss Trice doesn't like it when people quarrel. It makes her nervous. She clearly stated that earlier.
Yes, I do hate it when people quarrel, so please stop. Please.
I'm sorry, Miss Trice. Perhaps you should have gotten a job in a library. The Hamilton Museum has turned into a madhouse!
Well, it was fine until tonight. Oh, dear.
You won't have to worry about me. It'll be a cold day in July before I spend another dime in this museum.
I'm sorry you feel that way, Lorenda. In spite of everything, your money was well spent.
You think so? So far it's caused me terribly publicly, got me cursed by these weird foreigners, and caused me to be searched like a common thief.
There's cause for a lawsuit there somewhere.
I'll go chase an ambulance.
I couldn't help to overhear your little interview. If you're going to write an article about Dirk, don't you think a quote from his wife would be appropriate?
But you're estranged.
How about just plain strange?
I swear, I'm going to kill you. I didn't mean it. It's a figure of speech. Look, see what you made me do?
I'm not responsible for your fiery temper, Francis. If you're going to give Mr. Palmer a quote, why not just make it a confession?
Because I didn't kill my husband.
So you say, but I find it odd that the one night you're together in the same room in months is the night that he's murdered.
There are a lot of people in this room.
Yes, but you're the only one whose name is on the life insurance policy. The only beneficiary.
How do you spell that?
Look it up!
Look, Elena, I'm not going to let you or anybody else accuse me of my husband's murder. I didn't do it.
We'll see. If you'll excuse me, Mr. Palmer, I have better things to do than to be yelled at by a hysterical heretic.
H-A-R-R-R.
Look, despite our differences, I think my late husband was a brilliant man.
I can't wait to see what discoveries you make when you take over the excavation of Menkara's tomb.
Excuse me, we couldn't help but overhear. You plan to continue unearthing Menkara's treasures?
That is correct.
Have you learned nothing from your brother's tragic passing? Do you wish to bring doom upon your own head as well?
I am pretty hard-headed. I think I can handle it.
Then you are as foolish as he. If he had not ignored our warnings, then he might still be alive!
Beware the curse of Menkara, reigning for 5,000 years.
Beware the curse of Menkara, go to them now interfere.
Beware the curse of Menkara. Sankara. Behold, the warning is clear. Soon the gods of Egypt will burn your very soul.
Stop before this madness grows out of control.
Beware the curse of Ankara, reigning for 5,000 years. Beware the curse of Ankara, woe to them who interfere. Soon the gods of Egypt will seal your very fate. Heed the words and turn back before it's too late.
You said that the professor ignored your warning? Do you mean to say that you spoke to him? You met him before tonight?
Perhaps.
To answer your question, Lieutenant, no, we had not met him. But when we heard of his plans to remove these things from our country, we wrote him there to be unwise. Unwise and perhaps unsafe.
And did you sign your warning? When Professor Carlton heard your name tonight, he didn't seem to recognize them.
No, we did not sign it.
Oh, why didn't you mention that beforehand?
You didn't ask.
Does it make a difference?
It might. If it gets to be proven that you were connected to his death, your anonymous letter could seem to indicate premeditation.
But as I have told you, we are innocent.
You haven't exactly convinced me that. Convinced me of that. Many of these people in the audience still have strong doubts concerning your innocence.
What do you mean?
As you may recall, when I took you all into Dr. Vanderveer's office for interrogations, I asked the museum guards to walk around and ask the members of the audience if they had any observations. Me, Officer Holloway, and Joni have been looking through their comment sheets.
Some of the people Russ and I interviewed are sure they know who killed Professor Carlton.
And many of them are certain that they can pin down exactly who murdered the professor. And that's just what I'm going to give them the opportunity to do.
The members of the audience. What how?
I'll show you. If we could have another chair brought up, please.
All right.
Not exactly. Okay, move to the back, please. All right. When Officer Holloway calls your name, please come up here and be seated. Then, she will call on a member of the audience to come up onto the stage. These people will have the opportunity of confronting you face to face of committing cold-blooded murder. Of course, I can't force you to participate in this session. Do any of you refuse to be accused?
How could we refuse? It'd make it look as if we had something to hide.
It very well might. Would you like to go first, Dr. Vanderveer?
I don't see why not. I don't have to worry about getting caught in a lie.
We'll have to keep the questioning periods brief. I'm sure everybody here is getting anxious to get home. Right? Clear the lights turned on, please.
Honor.
All right. Val.
Duncan thinks you can do killer, Mr. Vanderveer.
You may roam around the stage however you like. Please tell Dr. Vanderveer why you believe he killed Professor Dirk Carlton.
Well, would you like to say that you've met a lot of people in your life? Yes, so? So you made a lot of friends. Yes. So it's saying that you didn't just get someone. Maybe completely different. For you. Why would I have done that?
I feel like the fact that he knows a lot of people is shaky grounds for an accusation.
I guess.
you have anything else to ask of him?
Yeah.
All right.
Murderer says what?
I believe you've been vested.
Well, thank you.
No problem. All right. Yes. You may be seated, Dr. Vandermeer. Next one, Val. Say that again? Rich people do tend to like expensive things. He had an expensive thing. I see the connection. All right, well, thank you. I'm struggling to see the correlation, but I can't argue with the facts. Rich people do like expensive things. All right, excellent, Val.
Unknown person, but they say that you stole it, I've Eugene and killed for revenge for stealing the jewel and the fact that you have it.
This was not anonymous?
So, you said correct?
That is correct, sir.
To recover the jewel. And the other affairs. But was it not stated earlier that the Egyptian government allowed the U.S. government to take these gems for a short period of time for the election?
To be fair, I had never explicitly said that my job sent me here, or in fact that my job asked me to remain the gems. The only thing that I was upset over was the disrespect that the professor was giving towards me and my goddesses and gods, that which I believe in.
Well, if it was for nothing but disrespecting, why would the government my further question, did the government actually send you, or are you here on your own?
I never said that the government sent me. I only said that I worked for it.
I also heard.
So as I said before, for protection. We are in America, are we not?
That's got him, boy. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Besides, as I said before, the man was stabbed in the ear with a pencil, not shot.
I do not believe there was a pencil gun. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Francis Carlton. Julia Earhart thinks you could be the killer.
seems to be some dubious morals all around, okay? Miss Newman, you may be seated.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Right, is that everybody?
I believe so.
All right. If we'd have this chair taken away, please. And Connor, we can have the lights dimmed again. Thank you. All right. Thank you to all of you accusers. Your accusations were very insightful. Either way, I now have a pretty good idea of who the professor's murderer is. There's just one more thing I need to make sure of before I take the suspect into custody. Could all of you please move to where you were at the time that he was killed?
Hardly see what this is going to prove.
And bear with me. I have a good reason for asking you to do this. And Professor Kirk, if you could please stand in for your late brother. I wish to recreate the events that took place earlier tonight as closely as possible.
All right, I'll do anything that helps.
All right. Now, Russ, your synopsis of the prime suspect's motives was incredibly thorough. I'm going to ask for your help again.
It's not going to help, Lieutenant.
I would like you to take your notes and read out the events that happened just before and after I arrived. And everybody else, I would like you to act them out as he reads them.
What will this prove?
Again, I have a good reason for asking you to do this. Now, Russ, whenever you're ready, please begin the lecture.
Also, Mr. Vanderveer, where was the lecture?
Oh, it was a little more to the left. About there.
All right. So, everyone was standing where they are now. Professor was holding the eye of Yes, Uajit. After a couple of slides, Miss Trice accidentally pressed the wrong button and dropped the remote, turning off the projector and plunging the room into darkness.
It was an accident.
As you found earlier, Lieutenant, each of the suspects stood up. One of them supposedly rushed up and stabbed Professor Carlton in the ear. By the time Miss Trice had turned on the projector, everyone had sat back down again. The professor stumbled and fell over.
Wait.
Up this direction.
One of the guards turned on the light. Dr. Vanderveer went to the body and said he thought the professor was dead. Buddy and I rushed onto the stage. I did not fall over. Dr. Vanderveer came to us and told Betty to stop taking pictures.
The publicity, you know.
Miss Newman got her handkerchief and began to cry. I said I was sure the professor is dead, and she ran to his body and held it.
I love the man. I was upset.
Betty mentioned someone should call the police, and Miss Gray volunteered.
I went to Dr. Vanderveer's office where the reception was better.
Tony asked about the jewel. Dr. Vanderveer shooed people away from the body, and Tony searched. The eye of eulogy is gone. Miss Newman asked to go to Dr. Vanderveer's office, and I said the lieutenant wants everyone to stay here.
Which is exactly right.
Miss Newman mentioned that Miss Gray left.
Someone had to call for help.
Dr. Vanderveer told Tony to post his guards at the exits. Mrs. Westbrook asked everyone to look under their chairs. Someone found a gun under Mr. Raymond's chair. He said it was his, and Tony took it. Miss Gray returned.
And I sat back down.
Miss Gray said the medical examiner was coming to take the body, and Miss Newman got hysterical again and ran back to the professor.
I was very upset.
Miss Carlton came and told Miss Newman to take her hands off her husband's body. Miss Newman touched her, and they fought.
Skip that part.
Betty took some pictures. Tony grabbed Miss Carlton while Dr. Vanderveer grabbed Miss Newman, and they pulled them apart. We heard your silence, Lieutenant. Dr. Vanderveer asked us to return to our seats. Miss Newman.
I sat back down.
Yes. Miss Newman put on some makeup. Dr. Vanderveer left to meet the lieutenant. The Amons tried.
Elena Newman, and was in the process of divorcing him. Miss Newman herself, perhaps for reasons involving the relationship. Then we have Kahiji and Isis Moon, who resented the artifacts you see here being taken from their country. These people had every reason to hate Professor Carlton. A motive to commit murder, what would it be? Could we agree? We shall see. A motive to commit murder, which is the one you can't outrun? A smoking gun. Could it be wealth and power? Don't be misled by the looks in their eyes. Could it be wealth and power? Think their plan to succeed? Next, we have Mrs. Westbrook, who felt the discovery of Ankara's tomb was being exploited in a manner that embarrassed her. Then, we have Miss Gray, who could have gone beyond the call of duty to aid her client, especially if the money was right. That, of course, brings us to Dr. Johan Vanderveer, the curator of the museum, which will now become world famous. In addition to motive, all 7 of these suspects could have conceivably had the connections necessary to dispose of a valuable gem without fear of getting caught. These people had no lack of motives, I assure you. A motive to commit murder, what would it be? Could we agree? We shall see. A motive to commit murder, what will we find? A devious mind, one of a kind. The next question is, well, who had an opportunity to do away with the man? As we found out, they all did. I was so caught up in the question of motive and opportunity that it wasn't until just a few minutes ago I remembered the most important part of our little mystery. The jewel. What happened to the jewel? Which, if any of them, could have caused the eye of eulogy to vanish? When I really thought it through and pieced together the information that all of you and Russ had helped me ascertain, it all became clear: the identity of the professor's murderer. Love, 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 and hatred, oh, what could the motive be? We shall see. A motive to commit murder, what would it be? Oh, we agree, we shall see. A motive to commit murder, what would it be? Could we agree? We shall see.
You have deduced where the eye of eulogy is in?
I have. It's just a few feet away from us. Oh, yes. Well, not quite. When you rushed to his body the first time, you were crying, holding a handkerchief. When you hunched over him, you saw the gem, and you put it in your handkerchief, and then brought it back to your seat. You realized that you would have to be searched with the other female suspects. You rushed back the second time and redeposited the jewel on his body. After coming back from the dressing rooms, you saw that he was about to be taken. right, Martha. Having the jewel in your possession is far out of its area.
That's right. Yes. I reasons why.
Envy.
I didn't plan to kill him. But all evening, Dirk was going on and on about my discovery. I did this or that, as if he alone was responsible for everything we both did. Suddenly, I was overcome by this feeling of intense anger. When the projector went out, I knew how to Dirk was. But someone killing Manatep by putting a scorpion in his ear? I rushed towards Dirk, grabbed the pencil out of his hand.
What can I say? That's what they pay me for. What are you doing? I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Mr. Dirk Carlton.
Before you put the handcuffs on me and read me my rights, I have one final request. Dirk had on projecting a slide that I took from the car of May I see the barrels of poison? Please, let me get one last look at my sacrifice. Thank you.
Well, I suppose it couldn't hurt. Miss Trice, Doctor.
You're very kind, Lieutenant. But you saw part of her real good, too.
What are you doing?
Getting away with it, of course. Now, I can assure you.
What do you want? This thing?
Exactly.
Wait a minute.
You can just read my mind, Lieutenant. You know me so well. Now, nobody move!
Do as I say, and no one gets hurt. I've been on some very dangerous expeditions, and I've become an excellent shot. Kirk, Tony, lie down on the ground with your arms outstretched. Val, Officer Holloway, Johan, you do the same, whatever! And now, Lieutenant Morrow, it's your turn.
Wow, that was really stupid of me.
It sure was. Morrow.
You know, seriously, I think you're going to get away with this, though.
Why not? Dad, I have the gun, and it's as you said, I'm an excellent magician. And now it's time to show you my disappearing trick.
Quick, get the lights!
Jane!
I'm all right. Go ahead, projector.
That was a smart move, Miss Newman. But Betty Lang was even smarter. I can already see the captions going along with those pictures right now. Murderous, caught on camera, trying to escape. Come out with your hands up.
Even Houdini blew his final trick. Hands behind your back.
Val, if you'll take her to the car.
Here, boss. Now move it! That was awfully kind of you, Lieutenant. And as for you, Dirk, Kirk, I guess I won't be working with you after all. It might have been interesting.
Yeah, just as long as I didn't have my back turned.
That lady needs to see a psych ward. All right, Dr. Vanderveer, I'm going to leave this with you for the time being.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Tony?
We need to borrow his evidence later in Miss Newman's trial. Now, thank you to all of you members of the audience who helped me apprehend Miss Newman. I will see all of you later. Oh, and one more thing. I'm going to be taking your comment sheets with me in case I need to call on you. I'll see you in court.
Betty, I have no idea how I could ever thank you enough.
Firing the flash unit was instinctive, Dr. Vanderveer. Whenever I see something exciting happening, my first instinct is to grab my camera and start taking pictures.
Spoken like a true professional. I have no doubt that you'll become an excellent reporter and photographer. I have a feeling that your first big hit will be on how you help capture a murderess.
I sure hope so.
I also have one thing. I will give you the full rights for when I finish discovering Mankara's tomb.
That's wonderful.
Betty, do you think maybe I could write the captions to your photos?
Sure, Russ.
Thank you.
If you learn how to spell Mankara.
There is one term in my condition.
And what's that?
You'll have to come with me to Egypt.
I think that can be arranged.
Hey, Connor, lights.